everyone, and welcome to another Sims 4 speed build. So today I have a special Christmassy build because we are a little over a week away from Christmas, and every year I just like to make something special for this holiday. So this year I am making a Tudor home that is set atop of a hill and surrounded by a lot of trees, because in a speed build I made a couple weeks ago, it was the mid-century modern one, I talked about how this year for Christmas I was thinking about making something like this just because I wanted to do something that took advantage of the terrain tools a little bit more, because so far all I've really done with them is just make a slight hill around the house. Like, I haven't done anything too crazy, although I really didn't end up doing anything too crazy with this build. But since it was made on a 64 by 64 lot, I was able to raise the terrain a little bit more than I have in those previous builds and make it so that it blends in with the surrounding world a little bit more, because when using the terrain tools, I just really like making it look like it's a part of the world. Like, that's just my personal preference for using it, and I feel like the smaller the lot, the less you're able to raise the terrain in order to get that effect. So it was a lot of fun just having a bunch of space around the house, because as you can see, this house isn't really that huge. Like, it's definitely a pretty big house. Like, it's technically a 6-bedroom house, although I furnished one of the bedrooms as a kid's playroom because I just really was not in the mood to furnish 6 whole bedrooms, and I just thought that a playroom would be a better use for one of them. But anyway, it's technically a 6-bedroom house, so it's really not that small, but compared to the size of the lot, it's really not that big, because I think usually when I think of a 64 by 64 lot build, I think of a mansion that takes up a huge chunk of the lot, but this house doesn't really take up all that much of the lot, so I just had a lot of space around it to play with the terrain and kind of get like some nice hilliness in the lot. So that was really, really fun to do, because that is something I've been wanting to do since getting the terrain tools, and they just made it so much easier to do the landscaping on this, because prior to having them, it would have been so much harder to really landscape this a lot. But I definitely want to do some more interesting things with the terrain tools in the future. Like, I really want to create a house that kind of has a walk-up basement, because we could sort of get that effect with the terrain tools, although I don't think we can create a walkout basement from within a foundation, if that makes any sense. Like, I don't think you can put walls and the foundation tool up next to each other, although I could have sworn I saw some people do that in their speed builds, but I might have just been imagining things or mistaking what I was seeing. So maybe we can do that. I'm not really sure. Like, that's definitely something I need to try out more, because I wanted to like create houses where the garage is kind of within the basement level, because I've seen houses like that near me. Like, there's this ranch house near me that has the garage in the basement level, and then the driveway slopes down towards that. So that's something I wanted to sort of try recreating. So there's just so many things that I want to do. And also, as you can see, this house is not currently up on a hill, and that's just because I wanted to figure out the size of the house before I went and did the terrain manipulation, because I didn't want to like make a flat area that was the wrong size and then have to adjust it later. So it's just kind of easier to make it like this, flat on the ground, and then just pull up the foundation and then raise the foundation up to the, or raise the ground up to the level of the foundation, because that's what I've been doing when using the terrain manipulation with builds. Like, I like making it flat, then pulling the foundation up, and then raising it right up to that level, and then just kind of going from there. Like, that's just the way I found the easiest to work with it. But right now I'm trying to figure out the floor plan of the upstairs. And I had a little bit of trouble with this, because I didn't want to end up with too many bedrooms. Like I said, that's why I didn't want to furnish 6 bedrooms and just turn one into a playroom. So I was trying to figure out how to split up the space, and originally I was thinking, oh, maybe I could make each bedroom have its own bathroom, but then I felt like that was a little over the top and unnecessary. So one of the bedrooms up here does have its own bathroom, and then there is a bathroom for the other 4 rooms, or well, technically 3 bedrooms. And I was kind of imagining that maybe the part on the right side was added onto the house at some point, because that's where the 1 bedroom with its own bathroom is, and then under that is where the kitchen and the laundry areas. So I was thinking that, maybe in the past this was, like, this was a really old Tudor home, and some came in and kind of renovated it and modernized it a little bit, and they maybe added that area onto the side and kind of reconfigured the layout on the ground floor a little bit, because there is a really, like, kind of a big master bedroom that has a pretty big master bathroom attached to it. So I was thinking maybe that was the area where the kitchen originally was, and when they restored this house a little bit or updated a little bit, they turned that into like a master bathroom or master suite, and then just added on addition on the other side of the house for the kitchen. Like, I don't know if any of this kind of makes sense, but that's what I was thinking, because that right side of the house definitely feels like something that could have been added onto it at some point. Like, it just feels a little different than the shape of the rest of the house. At this point, though, I have raised the house up and I'm working on the terrain manipulation, trying to get the slope right. And something I really wanted to have for this house is this kind of curved driveway going up the hill to the house. So I was trying to work with the terrain to get that effect. And I also added a separate building for the garage onto it, because I figured since we have this long sloping driveway, I have to have a garage, so it looks like that driveway has somewhere to go. I mean, I could have just had a parking pad, but I just really like the idea of having this separate garage. And I did, of course, do that as a separate building because, as I was just saying, I imagine this being an older build and that wouldn't have had a garage attached to it. Although I guess I could have like made it with the new addition I was imagining the right side was, but it doesn't really matter. I just liked it more as this kind of separate thing, in that way I could have the garage on ground level, like with that top area that's flattened, and make the rest of the house slightly raised up above that. So I'm pretty happy with how that came together. And now I am doing all of the wallpaper. And the thing I really like about making Tudor homes is that I can use all these different wallpapers that came with Get Together, because the Tudor wallpapers that came with Get Together are just amazing. I love that there's so much variety with them. Like, you have the different trims and details on the different wallpapers. You can really combine them and be a little bit more detailed with the wallpapering than usual, because usually I don't use a ton of different wallpapers on the outside of my builds, but with the Tudor homes like this, it is so much easier to just do that and use the different ones, like here where I'm putting on the ones with the diagonal wood trim just to add that little bit of detail around the side, because it is something that I've done in other Tudor homes that I've made. And it's actually been a while since I've done a Tudor home. I think the last one I made was maybe like 2 years ago. Yeah, I feel like the last time I made a Tudor home was in 2016. And I did make a Tudor home for Christmas like 3 years ago, so I'm kind of doing something I did in the past, but I feel like this Tudor home is a lot better than that one was, because I have 3 more years of building experience under my belt. So I feel like I've gotten a little better with it than I was in the past, and then we also have more tools in the game, because I actually looked back on that build recently, and there's just things I noticed where, like, there's bits where I would have, like, where now I would have wanted to pull in the eaves, but we of course weren't able to do that back then. So it's just kind of cool to look back on older builds and see how the game has evolved since then, and how, like, things are a bit easier than they used to be. Because they've definitely introduced some things over the past few years that just make building easier and just make it easier to create better builds. Like, the roof tools that they introduced before Cats and Dogs came out are just a huge, huge help, and I definitely put that ability to use when I was working on this build. And I also use this brown roof on this build, which I don't need, like, usually I just go right for the black roofs, but I felt like this coloring looked so much better on this house. It definitely added a nice bit of warmth to it and ties in with the woods that are on the rest of the exterior. So yeah, I'm glad I made that choice. And also, I did build some of this house in the winter, but I just wanted to start it off just building with the usual summer, like, kind of like how it was prior to us getting seasons, because I really wanted to make sure this build looked good in all the seasons. And if I had built in the winter, that would have been very hard to do. And plus, I also wanted to make that whole driveway thing, and if I had built it with the snow on the ground, then I would not have been able to see that at all. So I just had to do some of it before making it snow in the game and building in the snow. But once I got to the point where I'd done all the main landscaping, I did go in and just make it so it was all snowy, and then finish the rest of the build in the winter and put up all the holiday decorations when it was in the winter. So yeah, if you do want to play this build, like, just use this build in general for your game, then it will look decent in the rest of the seasons. And you could just take out all the Christmas decorations and play it without those, although there are a good bit of Christmas decorations throughout this house, so it will take a bit of work to remove all of them, but hopefully it's not too bad. But here I'm just adding some fence to the yard because I wanted to enclose some of it, kind of like that's like the part of the yard where they have some activities in, and then the rest of it is kind of just like woodsy area surrounding the house, because I was kind of thinking that, maybe like it's not like they own the whole lot and that kind of a deal. Like, their house is just kind of situated in the middle of woods, and their portion of it is a little bit narrower than the lot actually is. Like, I don't know, that's just kind of how I was thinking about it, and I just wanted to do something to break it up a little bit, so I thought adding that fencing in would just be a good way to do that. And I kept most of the trees outside of the fencing area, although I did add a few inside of it just to make it So it wasn't, just to make it so it blends in with the surrounding parts of the yard a little bit better. But yeah, just going overboard with trees made it so much easier to landscape the 64 by 64 lot, because usually I find the 64 by 64 builds very daunting because it's just so much lot to work with. But doing something where I could have the excuse of just filling it in mostly with trees made it a lot easier. And I was just really happy with how this came out, because for a lot of the size, this was pretty easy to landscape and actually took me less time to do landscaping for than smaller lots have taken me. And as you can see, I did put the house further back from the front of the lot to give that effect of driving up this curved driveway through the woods to the house. And I honestly found myself wishing that I actually had more lot to work with, which I found very surprising, because usually I try to pick the smallest lot I can for the size house I want to build, because I just want to do as little landscaping as possible. But yeah, I was just kind of wishing I had more lot to work with so I could add more trees in and really give this house more of an effect of being in the middle of woods, because there weren't really a ton of trees in the world around the lot, so that kind of ruined that effect of it being in the forest a little bit. But I don't know, it's not too bad, because right around the front of the lot there are some trees in the world, so I mean, it's not too bad, but you can definitely tell that there's a different number of trees in the world outside the lot than there is on the lot. But yeah, if you ever want to build a 64 by 64 lot and want an easier way to do the landscaping, then just do a bunch of trees everywhere. And this does make me want to make more lots or make more houses like this, where the house is, like where the house doesn't take up a majority of the lot, and I can just have that effect of a larger yard, because like I said before, I do tend to go with as small of a size lot for the house I'm making as possible, but that's not always realistic, because a lot of houses will have a lot of land around the house that just isn't landscaped. So I think I need to do builds like that more, and having the terrain tools just makes that so much easier, because you can use the terrain manipulation to add more detail to the yard and make it feel fuller, because that was always such a huge challenge in the past. And I think that's why I tended to build like that, because I just didn't know what to do with all of this flat lot. So the terrain tools just are a huge help with just adding that detail without having to use plants in order to give a lot that detail. But yeah, at this point I've done the landscaping in the front of the house, so I kept it pretty simple. I just used the rocks to create a border and just filled in with plants. It's kind of how I usually do my landscaping. Like, this is definitely my go-to style of landscaping, but here we're just adding in some lanterns to light the way as you go up the driveway. I thought that'd be a nice touch, and it also made it so once I switched over to having the snow on the ground, you could actually tell where the driveway was, because I realized that if I didn't do something like this, you would not be able to tell where it was at all, because the snow completely covers up any of the terrain paint, which makes sense. And the lights also give a nice effect at night, because it's just all lit up as you go. But now I'm working on the backyard, and I didn't really do a whole lot with it. It's definitely less filled in than my yards would usually be, but that's just because there is a slope in the back of the house, and that made it very difficult to place objects, and I wanted the ground to still look smooth. Like, I didn't want to have it where it was just a sharp slope in the ground. So what I did here was I stuck this swing set and slide over there, and I just flattened the ground a little bit around where I wanted to put it, and then put them in, and then just use a smoothing tool to smooth the ground out around it, because like I said, I wanted to make it look like it was blended in with the rest of it, but of course that I wanted the ground to be flat so they could actually use the object. So I was just trying to make sure it was flat, but at the same time blended in with the rest of it, and there was enough flat space around the items that the Sims would be able to use it. So yeah, that worked pretty well. But other than those 4 items, that's really it. Like, for the yard part, I didn't put anything else there because, like I said, I had a hard time working with the ground and finding spots to put things. So I just figured it was fine to leave this as a yard that was mostly unlandscaped, although I did put some plants and rocks around the house. So that's what I was just putting the dirt for there. And I just cut out where I stuck the plants and rocks in, because it was the exact same thing I did around the front, so I didn't think it was necessary to show all of that again. But yeah, you can see from where I place the dirt where I have those plants in, and now I'm just putting in all of the furniture that's on the deck area. So we had some chairs, like a chair in the front of the house, and then back here we've got an outdoor eating area and a grill, and I think that's really about it, other than a few plant type decorations. But that does mean we're almost at the part of the video where there is snow on the ground, which I'm really excited for, because that is where I start putting up the holiday decorations and things began to really feel festive. I also wanted to mention that this is a two-part speed build, which you probably already gathered from the title of the video, but I did just have so much footage that I felt like it was best to split up into two parts, which I don't really like doing, but with bigger builds like this, I just end up with so much footage that in order to fit into one video, I'd have to speed it up to nausea-inducing speeds or cut out a whole bunch of stuff, so I feel like splitting into two parts is just the best thing to do. Although I was hoping that I wouldn't have to do that. Like, for some reason, I got in my head when I first started working on this that I would be able to somehow fit into one video, because I thought since the landscape is mostly trees, it wouldn't take that long. But yeah, the house is still pretty big, so there's just a whole lot of furnishing. So this part is mainly the exterior and then a little bit of the interior, like I furnished the living room and the kitchen and the laundry room. And then the next part is the rest of the furnishing. But as you can see, the snow is on the ground now. I'm putting up the Christmas decorations, and this is the part where the build really comes alive. So I just did the thing that I've done in the past where I put wreaths in most of the windows, and then I also used some of the decorations we got with seasons, like these really cute reindeer. Although I did have some problems with getting them to not float above the ground because, of course, since this build was very hilly, they would float in most spots where I put them, so I had to put them off to the side there to get them to not do that. Although I really wanted them to be more front and center in the build, but I mean, that's fine. You can at least still see them. And then I did have those snowmen as you go up the driveway against the trees, which I thought was really cute. And I also found this garland type item, and I stuck that up at the roofs. And I also used that decoration box, and I put some lights on it, on the house, like on the roof. And then I also put that icicle decoration on the, no, it wasn't the eaves, it was the spandrels. Yeah, that's where I put the icicle decoration. So it was just really cute to see all of those decorations put up, because of course last year around Christmas time seasons wasn't out, so I didn't have that. So it was just really cool to be able to easily get the effect of Christmas lights, and then also to have snow on the ground without having to use a mod to do that, because as cool as the mod was, the snow from the game definitely does look better, because with the mod you would see the terrain paint through the snow. So it's just nice to actually have it as something that's a part of the game and not a mod. But now we're on to the interior, and I of course start off with the foyer, and originally I didn't have any Christmas decorations on this table here, but I did go back in a little bit and delete a few of the things I had on there and replace it with Christmas decorations, because this is a Christmas house after all, so we gotta have decorations all over the place, and it definitely looked a lot better once I went back and did that. But yeah, apart from that, we just got the basic coat rack and shoe thing going on, although later on I replaced that shoe rack and coat rack with the coat rack item that came with laundry day stuff, because I forgot we had that, and I think that definitely looks better in foyers when you can fit that in than like just having the coat rack item. But that definitely does work better for smaller spaces. And oh yeah, here was when I went back and replaced it with some Christmas decorations, and then we got a Christmas rug as you walk into the foyer, so it just looks very festive and cozy there. And we are also going to be getting some holiday items with the upcoming patch, but I wasn't patient enough to wait for that to come out, because I just really wanted to start on this build because I wasn't sure how long it was going to take me to finish. But I did actually finish it quicker than I thought I would, and I didn't want to hold it off just to get those items. So I'm going to try to do another smaller build before Christmas to use those items, but it's probably going to just be an apartment that's furnished for Christmas, because I really don't have time to do a full-on build before I leave for Christmas, because this year I'm once again visiting my fiance's family, and they usually do a whole big multi-day thing for Christmas. So I'm going to be going down there probably the 23rd, and then I'll be coming back the 26th. So I'm excited for that. Like, it was really fun last year when I did that, although I do feel bad about not spending Christmas with my family, but you know, I'm also a part of his family now, so I gotta spend time with them too. So it's kind of at that point in the relationship where we're splitting who we spend the holidays with. So that's always frustrating, because it's kind of at that point where you essentially have two families and you have to figure out which family to spend each holiday with, and then whatever family you don't spend the holiday with, they aren't happy about it. So that's always fun to deal with. But yeah, I'm doing that this year, and then the 22nd, I'm going over to my parents, so I'm going to be spending that day with them, and then spending the night there and exchanging presents with them, and then leaving the next morning to go down to visit my fiance's family. So whatever I do, I have to finish it before the 22nd, and if it's anything more than an apartment, I just don't think that's going to happen. So I'm probably going to furnish one of the smaller apartments that is in the Culpeper House building, which I know has been, like, I know those apartments have been furnished a zillion times, and I should probably do another one, but they're just small and easy to furnish, and that's what I need right now. And I just really want it to be something where that I can just use to highlight the new items. So, yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. And just so it's not too close to the furnishing style of this build, I wanted to also mix in some of the Hanukkah items because I never use those and I feel really bad about that. Because I know there's probably some of you who watch my videos who celebrate Hanukkah but not Christmas. So I wanted to make an apartment that's for a family who celebrates both Hanukkah and Christmas. Because I just think it'd be really nice to mix the decorations from both of those holidays together and put some new items that I don't usually use to use. So yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm probably going to do that and schedule it for some point while I'm gone. So really excited to start working on that. So that'll probably be a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment depending on which one I furnish in that building, because I want to do one I haven't furnished before, and I think the one that's in the front to the right of the one that has a balcony is one I haven't furnished before, and then the one that I think it was a Rosoya family lives in is another one I haven't furnished. So I'm going to do one of the two, but it's probably going to be the smaller one because, like I said, I just don't really have a whole lot of time. But the nice thing about furnishing something smaller is that I can really go all in on the details of just making it for a family that goes over the top of decorating, because I find that with smaller builds it's a lot easier to really focus on the details because you don't have as much space to furnish. So yeah, I'll pick whichever apartment based on how much time I feel like I have, because I also wanted to try to make another part of each of my Let's Plays before I leave. So hopefully I have time to do all of that this week. And then also the second part of this speed build will hopefully be up tomorrow. If not, then it'll be up a couple days after this part goes up. It just depends on whether I have time, like when I have time to do the commentary for that, but hopefully it'll be up the next day. That's usually what I try to do. But anyway, we are on to furnishing the kitchen right now, and I really like how this kitchen turned out. It's very cozy and it's got a lot of clutter in it. I just really like making detailed, cluttered kitchens like this, and I of course use that painted wallpaper once again, which I really like. But I at least use the one that I don't normally use because I usually go with the one with the chunkier squares in it. That's the only way I can think of to explain it. So I did at least go with a different one. I also never really used a swatch of it, but I did use this because I was trying to find one that blended with the wallpaper color that I used for the rest of the room, because I did use that wallpaper that came with Parenthood with the wood paneling on the bottom of it, and I really wanted the color of the top of the wallpaper of the kitchen wallpaper to match the paint part of that other wallpaper. So this was one of a few swatches that matched it, and I felt like this one was the best. So yeah, that was a problem. I was limited on which swatches I could use to begin with, but I think that was a good thing because it did of course push me to use one that I rarely use. So yeah, that's a good part of it. But now I'm moving on to furnishing the laundry room, which is the last room that I furnished in this video. And there's nothing really too exciting about this room. I mean, it's a laundry room, so it's not really gonna be that exciting. So you just got your basics. You got the washer and dryer. You got a counter that I stick the things I usually stick on it. Like I stick a laundry basket and some laundry detergent on it because I really like sticking laundry baskets in laundry rooms. I mean, that's maybe not realistic because I personally wouldn't just stand in the laundry room folding the laundry, but I don't know, maybe some people do that. Usually, I feel like leaving it in the living room or the bedroom is a more realistic place to put it because usually that's where I do my laundry folding, either in the bedroom or the living room. And that's something I used to do in past builds. Maybe I should do that again because I feel like that's a better place to place laundry baskets on. But anyway, you got some litter boxes in here. And that's really about it. So, yeah, I'm going to be leaving off here shortly. But I hope you'll have a Merry Christmas, of course, if you celebrate the holiday. If you don't, then I hope you have a happy holiday season or day in general. But yeah, I'm going to leave off here. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.